everybody. I am back with another unboxing video. This time for Unbroken. This is a solo game only. There is no multiplayer, there's no competitive, there's no co-op. It is simply solo game. A game of survival. This is really kind of a resource management game with some fighting of monsters tucked in there, but essentially you're like the last remaining member of a group that was on an expedition and you got jumped by all the enemies, and you're now just trying to survive and kill a bunch of people on the way out. For those of you who are not familiar with this game, this was a Kickstarter game, and it hit Kickstarter. I really loved the look of the game. I loved that it was a pure solo game. It's pretty small in size. It plays pretty quickly. It just seemed like a really good system, and then it successfully funded, and then Ultima Games got a hold of it. So Artem Safarov, I may have butchered that, he created this game. He finished it essentially, and then he passed it off to Ultima Games here, who just did an absolutely awful job of handling everything from there. The production of the game, there were mistakes made, and they kept having to come back and forth, and the game was delayed. And then when they were actually getting ready to start shipping out the game, they realized that they had undercharged people in the pledge manager for shipping, and especially if you were like in European or PAC Asia or Australia, places like that. But even in the United States, they sent some out, and then they were withholding others copies until they got additional funds. They're basically like begging people through email for additional money because they had mismanaged their process. So really it was kind of a disappointing process to be a part of, and kind of soured me a little on Kickstarter. And there is another game that has a similar sad sob story as far as Kickstarter is concerned. I'm hoping that will still come to fruition later this year, and when it does, I will do an unboxing for that, and we'll talk about that then. So anyways, here is Unbroken. I'm hoping is going to be a fabulous game. I have heard a lot of people talk about it now that it is in their hands, and we're kind of done with Ultima. Artem Safarov should be very proud of his Unbroken game here. So you can see that essentially there's some resource tracking boards and then a bunch of cards, and that's really all that's in there. I think there is one die in here that helps you perform, decide what the AI actions are. So let's see what's inside here. Of course, we have a rules reference guide that we're going to start off with, and this is actually really thick. I don't know if you guys can see that, but for being such... Okay, so there's Lost, the board game, Once Upon a Time. Alright, so there's a bunch of ads at the end here. A lot of ads, but okay, big thank you. So here they took time to list everybody's name. Glossary, completely unnecessary. Hunter class. Alright. Welcome to the dark. End game. Alright, scoring and achievements. So we are talking about 35 pages, which I guess isn't that bad. This is kind of like a half size instruction manual. But 35 is just a lot. There is definitely a lot of text here. Personally not a fan of, like, why'd they cut off this card right here? It just looks funny. It looks like they didn't format the page correctly. They do it up here too. But anyways, here is the instruction manual. So we'll set that off to the side. Oh, what is this? This looks like a poster. is correct. So it appears to be a poster. It is essentially a map on one side, and on the back side here it is this sprawling vertical shot with Unbroken, some of the heroes at the bottom. Everybody's looking pretty beat up, so that's interesting. I'll probably give that to my boys. They'll tape it up on top of their wall. Alright, so we've got some counter tokens. Another thing I noticed and I'm not a fan of is that Ultima Games use their logo as like the round tracker here. All the rest of these are just resource counters, and then they've got this round tracker piece that is their logo. I don't know if they forced that on poor old, what's his name? I forget what his name is. So here's a big fat stack of encounter cards. Now this is nice. I do like this. This is a big chunky die. It's nice. It's pretty lightweight, but it is good size, and it's got this unique markings on it to represent 1 through 6. So essentially it's a regular D6, but it's just very thematic. Here is a set of skill cards. All of the stuff on this packaging, it's like greasy. It's weird. Condition cards. So it's funny, they almost make it so that you can't see what's underneath. A bag, which is interesting. I didn't know that you would need a bag for anything. I guess to hold your stuff. Hold your resource chips, maybe? I don't know. Symbol guide and advanced weapons. A score pad, which I guess you could start keeping score, but essentially this is a get out and survive game. So I'm not really sure why you'd be worried about keeping score, but it's there. It's probably was a Kickstarter stretch goal or something like that. A whole bunch of text starting with a quick start guide. So we'll open this up here in a second. I just want to get to the bottom of the box. There are a bunch of other games here. Unbroken, Die Trying. So Fantasy Flight does that all the time. Somebody had told me that there was advertisements on the back of the box, but they must have been talking about this stuff on the sides. So there was the box. This is probably the nicest thing, next to maybe the die, about what came out of the Kickstarter is these double layered boards, so that when you put a resource tracker in here, this is your time tracker, monster health and armor, and then here are your many resources that you have to keep up with. And you can see here again, they have used, I don't know if you can see that really well, but there is, they have used their company logo as a resource symbol in the game, and it's all over this like quick setup guide here, and the Ultima logo for easy play. Place the tracker, get your tracker token, place the token. So I don't understand. You don't see Fantasy Flight throwing the double F's all over their games. It's not like here's a round tracker first player token that's a big FF. So okay, one thing I am noticing here is that these monster cards are they're like thin cards, like they're not quite as thick as playing cards. They are not certainly not cardboard ish. So we have these 2 quick start guides, and then on the back you have this little decision tree, which I do like, and this is where you're supposed to use that Ultima logo token, but you can see that it essentially just helps you get through the different phases. And then you have the various monsters. So for each monster level, and you have to get through 4 levels. So let's just take a look at a couple of the level 1 monsters here so we don't have a bunch of spoilers. You can see that, for example, giant spider here at the bottom is a 1/. And then if we just pick one randomly right here, the shrieking fungus, which is kind of cute almost, he's got, I believe that's the 5/. So essentially when you're in level 1, you're going to roll this die here to determine what monster comes out. So there's 4 different levels of monsters, and there is 6 different monsters for each level. So that does add some variety to the game. Let's take a look at some of our condition cards here real quick. So these all say condition cards. These probably won't need to be shuffled. Oh, they're all blank. Okay. Paranoid, cursed, weakened, armored, poisoned. So yeah, these all give you essentially negative effects, I'm sure, from the big baddies. Can lay those on you. It's weird they have all these like 3 different ways of packaging their cards. It's almost like their cards came from like 3 different factories. Oh my goodness, so sticky. Cards are already kind of bent from being in there. Another blank card. Skills. So these are things that I believe you gain from defeating a monster at each level. So you can see there is lots of them here. I haven't seen any duplicates yet. From what I understand, you're going to draw 2, pick 1. So it is nice that each one of these so far I've seen have been different. So there are the skills. And the last thing, and this is one of the more unique things about the game, if I can get this open here. All right. Again, this is like sticky. What's going on here? Why don't you want me to play your game? All right. Gross. Okay, so these are, again, blanks. What's with all the blanks? This big deck of cards here will get shuffled up. There's more blanks right there. I'm going to have to go through and find all the blanks. I guess you can create your own cards. But essentially, for example, this one here will allow you to spend 4 time and spend a minor effort, and you gain 3 wood, which would allow you to build things like weapons, like a club or something like that. So you're going to draw 2 cards, and you're going to choose which one do I want to do. And you could actually even pass on both of them and just rest, essentially. But if you rest with this one, you're still spending 4 time, but you're gaining 4 minor effort. This one, you're only spending 1 time. You're only gaining minor effort. This one, you'd have to spend, that must be major effort to gain these 3 things. But you essentially make these decisions between your boss fights, and they help you gain resources, but they're also spending your time, which if we flip back over to this board, you can see that there is the time tracker here, and if we're putting a resource cube in it, if I can get this little tiny baggie open. Maybe that's why they gave us the bag, because this little baggie is impossible to get open. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't see any other use for that bag. You know, essentially round 1, you're going to start here. Well, if I take the 4 action, I'm going to go all the way down to 3. And then say I take this one and I get 2 and 2. So that's my next decision I need to make. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take 2. Now, in the game, I would obviously stop here because the object is to not hit 0. But say I'm at 2 or 3, wherever I was, and I get 2 4s. I'm not going to search through all this deck here, but it could happen. I am automatically going to, even if I take my opportunity to rest, going to make it down here to 0. If that is the case, the monster that you're fighting this round is going to ambush you. So deciding what actions you take in between your monster level, kind of to gain more resources and things like that, is part of the game. But essentially it's a resource management, it's a survival game, it's a solo game. I am looking forward to playing it now that I have it. There are some things about it that just seemed like they cheapened the whole process on me, and I'm going to blame Ultima Games for that. I'm going to look those aside, and there's one more set of cards here that we didn't get to. I think just one. I haven't seen any survivors yet, so they must be in here. Yes. So we've got the Sage. I think, yeah, they're double-sided. So male and a female. The Sneak. The Huntress, who I'm pretty sure that's the one on the cover. Hunter. Looks like Burt Reynolds there. And the Brawler. And again, they must want you to give you the opportunity to like create characters, because there's create parts of the game. So, and then here are your weapons in the game. So you always start with bare hands, then club or knife, axe or spear, sword, maul, weapon. 2 blank ones, of course. But you can see here that when you start with bare hands, you can then decide, and you kind of are going to take at one tree or the other. You're going to either go the club route or the knife route, depending on the resources you have. And then from the club's going to have 2 upgrades, the maul or the axe, that the knife does not. So if you want the knife route, then you can go sword or spear. So there you go. And it appears that it's just bare hands, then club or knife, axe or maul. Yeah, so the maul or the axe, the sword or the spear there's only like 3 levels of weapons, which is a little disappointing. But I guess there's only 4 rounds in the game, so how much can you actually accomplish? And this is supposed to be a survival game, so finding the legendary sword of Hyrule is not going to be an option. But I can create my own advanced weapon, so maybe that's what I'll do with this blank card, is create my ultimate Zelda weapon here. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of scattered all over the place now, but that is Unbroken. It's a pretty small box, so I don't really see a need for any type of storage solution. It's mainly just cards, and they're all different sizes, which is a little obnoxious. So yeah, we are just going to get all this tucked away. I'm going to take a look at the rules, and then I'll probably post a video just quick, depending on how long the games take, maybe a playthrough, maybe just an overview, rules overview, something like that. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more Unbroken or more unboxing videos, if you're desperate for a storage solution from me, I promise I will find one and we'll get one out there for you. But until then, have a wonderful evening. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing. And that's it. Goodbye.